I want to talk about something that happened early this week. And that is that our buddy Jeremy Fowler did that poll where he asks all the different GMs and everybody questions. And they put together the list of the top 10 quarterbacks. And look, there are always going to be some disagreements and things like that come up. But the thing that stood out the most to me was that in 1 year, it feels like the National Football League kind of punted on Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
A year ago at this time, Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles was the belle of the ball, right? Yep. Everybody loved him. He was the guy who was a skyrocket to the moon, all that kind of stuff. And now he falls out of the top 10. The acquisition of Saquon Barkley. What is your perspective on Hurts, what last year meant, and what we expect?
I believe Jalen Hurts plays better this year. We had a good conversation at the upfronts. And he talked.
You and he.
Yes.
Boy, you are everywhere these days. I just need to start following you around. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but just in having a conversation with him, he understood what last year was. He knows that his team needs to get better. And he said that it starts with him. It starts with his play. It starts with his leadership. And I asked him, too, though, I was like, bro, why you always look so mad? Like why are you so miserable all the time? And he's like, I'm not miserable. He goes, I know what it takes to win. And I knew even when we were winning early, we weren't doing what it took to be a good football team. And eventually it caught up. And he also said for himself that he has to find a way to play better. When you look at what they were offensively last year, there was no creativity. There was no opportunities for Jalen Hurts to have pass run options where he could use his decision making to hurt teams. And it was, if A.J. Brown doesn't make a play down the field, then we're absolutely screwed. I believe going into this year is going to be upon Kellen Moore to get him back to where he was 2 years ago when he was in the MVP race, when they were a Super Bowl runner-up, and when Jalen Hurts was the guy that was America's darling. Because if they don't, I believe these questions will persist. And what the list means to me is that before 2 years ago, people didn't believe in Jalen Hurts, and they feel like last year proved why they didn't believe in him.
So what does the acquisition of Saquon Barkley mean? Domonique Foxworth, if you're a defensive player and you're playing against the Eagles this year, adding him, because they already had a lot of pieces, and they obviously have all those weapons on the outside. What specifically does Saquon Barkley mean for Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just another way to take pressure off of Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts has been an incredible running back, frankly, as part of the asset that he brings to this team and running the push, the Philly special, or not the Philly special, the tush push and all that stuff like that is taking a toll on Jalen Hurts' body. He was injured for part of last year. I think some of the biggest problems with last year was more scheme related than anything, but also it took a toll on his body. So Saquon Barkley could take some more of those hits away from Jalen Hurts, which may allow him to feel better later in the season, which could end up helping him have a better season.
How do you view him as an evaluator, which is what you made your living as for a long time? How do you evaluate Jalen Hurts right now?
Similar to what RC said, I thought he looked beat up last year. He took way too many hits. And it's hard to play quarterback at a high level, Green, when you're not feeling great. And Hembo gave me the stat. Over the last 3 years, he ran the ball more than any other quarterback. So to me, like, Saquon Barkley is going to take a lot off, not only just running, but Saquon Barkley is a great receiver. So I think getting the ball out of his hands, hopefully he'll be fresher coming down the stretch. And Graz has made this joke, but like, one of the things you really got to look at is why not use Saquon in the tush push? Like, it's just another way to take more hits off of Jalen Hurts.
It'd be like a tush and quad push. It'd be the whole lower half.
They do the tush push because it works. When they need a yard, they know they're going to get it. But you do have a quarterback whose knee was bothering him all last year.
Right.
And you're running play multiple times a game where, like, literally everyone from both teams is on top of him. Like, that can't help. So they have to rethink that. Look, the offensive scheme, I think, was a mess last year. And I think bringing in Kellen Moore will help with certain things. And bringing in Saquon Barkley will help with certain things. Jalen Hurts was very good against the blitz 2 years ago. He was terrible against the blitz last year. A lot of that was they weren't picking up blitzes, right? So whose fault was that? Was it scheme? Was it him? Was it, the running back situation? Whatever. There's a lot different, and I think they feel like they've addressed it. Jalen Hurts, until last year, was a guy that we saw get better every single year. He's a guy that knows what he has to do to take the next step, whatever that step is in a particular offseason, particular season. So I have faith that he'll do it again.
Meek, quickly, go.
Yeah, no, I was just wanted to talk more about how Ryan Clark's was at the upfronts, and apparently Jalen Hurts came up to him. So, like, you are everywhere. You're the most popular man in America right now. There might be an opening to run for office real soon. Maybe you should do that. There's nothing that RC can't do. I will vote for you.
We are a long way from Culture Wednesdays, for sure.
I was going to say, we went from Culture Wednesday to Sports Beach in Paris, the white party, and people coming up to you at the upfront and wanting to have conversations.
I'm just trying to be a good man. But the other piece about Jalen Hurts, though, is this team's never had a problem running the ball. No. So I know adding Saquon Barkley is a thing because they feel like you have an upgraded position, but Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, all of those guys had great years for the Philadelphia Eagles running the football. This is about adding to the pass game.
RC, you trying to host the show too? Don't steer us back to Jalen Hurts. I want to make fun of you for being a celebrity. That's what I'm here to do. I want to talk to you about being the king of all of media right now. That's what I want to do. Jalen Hurts can play. Saquon is good.
Well, you know what?
Microsoft, y'all got to stop, Dom. I tried to bring you with me, man. You didn't want to come. You've been at track meets.
Parenthetically, if you want to have fun, Neek texted me that Dan Graziano looks like Billy Ocean in a stage adaptation of Ocean's 11, which frankly I agree with as well. And I would like to begin this hour with very bad news for fans of every team in the National Football League except for one. And those would be the fans of the Kansas City Chiefs, which is to say that the scariest thing about a team is when they can beat you without their best stuff, right? They say that about pitchers a lot. Dan Graziano used to cover baseball. When a pitcher can beat you without his best stuff, now you've really got a problem. I think the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year without their best stuff. Their offense, I mean, Patrick Mahomes said it earlier this week, he didn't have any fun. That offense wasn't explosive. They had all kinds of receiver issues. It looks as though they have addressed those. So the bad news is, and I'll ask you, RC, first, if you think this is the case. The Kansas City Chiefs this year are going to be, and may be demonstrably, better offensively than they were a year ago.
They will be, but the scarier part is they're going to be back. They're going to be explosive again.
Yes.
Like, that was the thing. Like, this is the first time you ever walked into a stadium with Patrick Mahomes and had to use the dreaded phrase, Patrick has to manage the game. Because that's truly what he was doing. He was finding ways to create offense the best he could while a really good defense kept the game close, and then he could be Patrick Mahomes late when they needed it most. Now you're going to have Hollywood Brown, who is a 4-3 guy, Xavier Worthy, who is the fastest guy to ever enter the NFL on the outside. That opens up things for Travis Kelce, who truly throughout last season wasn't the Travis Kelce we were used to seeing. And so now with having this sort of speed with Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position, who I believe grew last year. You grow through adversity. You grow through tough times. He's been the dude since he stepped on the field. Last year, he had to figure out to make a way out of no way. He was like a Southern Baptist church where every time you go there, it's fire and brimstone, and you're talking about the joy on the other side. The other side for him is now. The other side is through all of that. We won the Super Bowl, and now you're going to give me these Ferraris on the outside? It's going to be scary for every team that plays the Kansas City Chiefs.
But the only way you can get to those Ferraris if they can protect up front. And Greeny, last year, their tackles weren't good, and they have more question marks. Jawan Taylor led the league in penalties, and who's playing left tackle? Is it Wayne and Morris? Is it Kingsley Suamataia? So, I mean, on paper, I'm excited.
Of bad news.
Well, there are some issues, but there are questions with every team.
That's why I don't get invited to any of those places.
But here's what I want to ask you, Domonique, as a corner, because which was the position that you played. Because Xavier Worthy, someone made I think it was you, Graziano, earlier this week, who said there isn't a big history of rookie receivers putting up big numbers in Andy Reid's offense. And here's what I would just think as an observer, Neek, but you explain it to me. The mere presence of Xavier Worthy, who is faster than Tyreek Hill. That is not hyperbole. He ran the 40 faster than any other player in the history of the Combine. His mere presence on the field, I feel like, will change the way defenses will have to deal with them, whether he puts huge numbers up this rookie season or not. Can you explain, as one who has to be in that defensive secondary, what the mere presence of that speed might do?
You ruining my morning. I try not to think about Xavier Worthy at all in life because it makes me nervous. And I think that Ryan's analogy to Southern Baptist Church was a good one for last season, and it might be an even better one for this season because cornerbacks are going to be in for long days, and they're going to be sweaty as hell looking at Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown on the other side. And them Martin Luther King fans that they got, they ain't going to help you cover Xavier Worthy. They're not going to help you slow down Patrick Mahomes. They ain't going to do nothing but make you windy and sweaty. It's a long day with those guys on the field.
So, I mean, but to be clear,
thank you.
Very specifically, right? I mean, this is just stretching like the way what Steph Curry does to an NBA defense is what this guy is going to do to an NFL defense, right?
Yeah, so I think that the way that you think about scheming and preparing for offenses is you think about the players that you have to know where they are at all times. Those are normally the players who make big plays. But if there's a guy out there who can run a 4-2, 4-1, you're going to know where he is at all times. And you're going to have to put in special coverages, special checks if he's in certain situations. Like, it is going to be a stressful thing just because you have a guy who you know can blow the roof off your defense, and you know that Patrick Mahomes can find them. So that is another person, even if he turns out not to be good, there's still going to be concern. And that's what we did when I was playing. It's like, even the guys who didn't turn out to be great receivers, we would know their 40 times, and we would always know where the guy with the 4-3 was. We would find him, and we would address that any way we had to. And it's going to make life a lot easier for everybody else on the field because at any moment, he could blow the roof off your defense and give you a 60-yard touchdown.
So when they give you the scouting report, the first page has like everybody's measurables, and it'll be, 6'3", 240, but they have the 40 time on there. And so when you look at something about seeing it on paper changes it for you. And so when I would look at that, I'd look at Troy and say, Troy, you're going to go to his side, right? Because that's not what I'm dealing with today. And it's not about his production as much as it is about his presence.
That's it.
Right? Now, you're going to need to get him the ball because eventually by week 4, if I realize you're not throwing it to him, then he's less scary to me. But if he's able to take the top off one time a game, then the next game twice, and then the next game make a play underneath where it's a catch and run, now you start to have to be concerned with him, and that's when the other players around him also get matchups.
Yeah, I think that's what's scary about Patrick Mahomes, and we start to talk about him, right, in the idea of can he turn out to be the best player of all time? Can he catch Tom Brady in Super Bowls? He's already got 3. He just won it with